Welcome back, guys. Today at Underground Graphics, we have me doing another install. I'm Gian. I will be doing a install on the Bronco Sport. Now we're doing a PPF anti-glare kit. Now it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, but it will help you guys out a ton. What it is a little piece that we're going to put either towards the back, and I will go over that just in a little bit, but we do have a back piece or we do have this front piece. This specifically is just for example purposes. We do not have this in red unless that is something that you particularly want to put on your vehicle. This is going to be in PPF, so it will be stealth PPF, which is fairly clear, but it does have a little bit of a haze to it. And that's why it is a anti-glare kit, because it is going to cut down on that glare, on that hood bump, for whenever there is just that perfect amount of sunlight hitting in the wrong place. So before we get too far into that, I do want to go over materials and cleaning. So we do have our usual alcohol water mix. That is 20% alcohol, 80% water. And we usually just wipe down the vehicle surface with that, the paint, wipe that down, get a good surface cleaned off. And then personally, I like to go over with a clay bar with our soap and water mix. Now that is about 16 ounces of water in a bottle, and then about 8 to 10 drops of Dawn dish soap. And you do just want to go ahead and spray that onto your vehicle after wiping off that alcohol water mix. If you do have a clay bar from a auto parts store or something like that, it is going to help exfoliate that paint, get it nice and smooth for that install, so you don't have to worry about having anything underneath it or any contaminants that you didn't see when you initially wiped it off with that water alcohol. And that is just a quick exfoliation for the paint. Gets all those weird rough textures off of it that you might feel. So with those two solutions that we have, with this being a PPF install, you do want to get your alcohol, put it far away from you, because you don't want to mix up your soap and water and your alcohol. That will not go well. I'll explain that as well to you guys. For tools, you do want to have as many towels, microfiber towels, that you can get your hands on. You don't want to lay them all over the place. Of course, you don't want them to have them touch the floor either. You want to make sure that they are very clean, just like the area that you're working in. As long as you have those, you have plenty of ways to wipe up the extra water from that install. Also, we have a roughly 4-inch or so squeegee that we will have on the website. We do have two different options for those. We have a black one and a yellow one, since those are our colors. Neither of those are any different in any way, just in color. So if you do prefer to get one of those, we can give you an option to put that in your order. And if that is something that works for you, perfect. You can hold on to that and have it for future installs. Next up, we have the scissors. Now, we're not going to use those too much, but for the kit that you guys order, you will have to separate the two different panels that come with the kit. So we do recommend having just a pair of scissors for that. Also, as same with the water alcohol mix, you just want to go ahead, after using the scissors, put them far away, because you're not going to need them. That way you're not tempted to have to use them on anything, and you wouldn't have to reorder anything. Now that we have gone over that, as I mentioned, this piece is for example, so I will be pulling this off, and I will get into one of the options, one of the 3 options that we have for that anti-glare kit. All right, so for option 1, we do have wrap film. This one is a little bit of level of protection, but it is not the same amount of protection as PPF. Now, this will cut down on that glare. We do have this on the website as well, but if this is something that you would prefer to do, rather than having a satin piece on your hood and you want it to look a little bit more like a graphic, you can opt in for this one, and we will have this for both sides if that is something that you choose. This one is a fairly simple install. You do just want to line it up on that bump of the hood, and we do have a little bit of a gap towards the back. Now that is something that we typically do here. It is an option if you do want, or not an option, but it is possible for us to extend this back piece if that is something that you would like. Typically, we don't like having the edges roll over, because it does look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing for us to stop here at the edge of the hood. But like I said, if that is something that you guys want to extend, just reach out to us when you do place your order, and we can make that happen for you. So as any other wrap film that we have put on, this is going to be done with the hinge method. Very simple, but keep in mind that this does have a little bit less protection than that PPF, but we do want you guys to have this option. Go ahead and pull our tape. Okay, so now that we have had the wrap film one on that you guys just saw, we do want to go ahead and go over the partial coverage that we have for that anti-glare. Now again, this being red, it is an example piece. I do just want you guys to be able to visually see where that is going to stop. Now we do have it set up this way because this is where about 90% of that glare comes from in your cockpit view while you're driving. The sun hits right here, kind of gets in your face a little bit. It's a little bit more difficult to see. So with this being a stealth PPF, also in the option of the wrap film, we can cut down on that glare and somewhat prevents you from having to squint or put on sunglasses while you're driving if maybe you forgot your sunglasses at home or you just don't like wearing those. So this is the partial one. I'm going to go ahead and take this one off. Go ahead and start with the PPF. I will start with the smaller one, and then I'll show you guys the larger one, and then it is up to you on which one you would like to go with. So now that we've cut these two apart, just letting you guys know that they will come together. They will be in somewhat of a V shape. So that way, when you're facing the front of your vehicle, they will be together like this. You'll be able to tell which one's left, which one's right. Of course, they will be labeled, but just in case something, maybe there's a mishap or something like that, and they aren't, that is going to be how they're going to come. So you can split those apart and then decide which one you want to put on first. And these do come as a pair. We are going to just install the driver's side for you guys. As usual, I've already gone and cleaned the surface from the other installs that I had on there. Make sure your spray bottle is set to a good mist, so that way you can generously cover that surface. I'm not sure if you guys can see up close. I'm trying to put my hand behind it. The parts that are going to go up towards your hood are going to be this slightly rounded side, and there is a little bit more of an angled side right here, but it is rounded off as well. These two bottoms are going to be a little bit more rounded. That's just so if you're wiping off your vehicle, then you're not going to have hard edges that are come to a point that might end up catching that microfiber towel or whatever it is that you wipe your vehicle off with, whether it be a chamois or a towel. So you won't have to worry about those coming up on you. So without further ado, I am going to just dog ear this edge just a little bit. Spray your soap and water right there. Of course, you might end up touching the film. That is totally okay. If you are planning to touch the film, make sure your hands are very clean. Always make sure you have clean hands, a clean work area, and just as important, a good temperature in that work area. And I know maybe some of you are already maybe in the comments thinking you didn't take off that piece of tape. I am aware, and it is something that I should have done in the first place, but no worries. It is good that I have that soap and water underneath there because that would have already stuck just from me taking off that tape. So if there is anything that we have on top of there for you guys to make it easier as far as the description or placement suggestions, do take those off before spraying anything on your vehicle or laying anything on the film. So as usual, we're gonna get our underground graphics squeegee, and since I've already sprayed the bottom of this, I've sprayed the adhesive side and I sprayed the surface that is going on to. I'm just going to place my hand right here. You can either go from the back to the front or from the front to the back. I'm just going to do it what I feel like the easier way. Put pressure with my hand right here so it doesn't move around, and slowly just push that water out. And you do want to kind of repeat that just a couple of times, and it will stick. Now, once you have that half locked in there, it's not going to move around. Of course, don't push too much. There is still uncured water, uncured adhesive underneath there, and that water does need to dry out. But once your back half is locked down, then you can get the rest of that water out of there, and here's where your towels come into place. When you are wiping this down, since there is still moisture underneath there, you want to put the towel on top of what you're doing. I still have this edge exposed, but I'm going to push towards the front of the vehicle, which is going in the opposing direction of those edges. Flip that towel over. This side has a little bit of moisture on it, so I'm going to go back to a dry side and go from the front to the back. And I'll take up any extra water that I might have right here. And now we're able to see the hood bump anti-glare. Now this one, as mentioned, is going to be the main focus of that glare. It is going to really just cut off right where that glare typically starts on these. Now, after this one, I am going to put on the more extended one because I'm sure there might be some who want to extend this a little bit further. Maybe this looks a little bit weird to you. If that's the case, you can either go for the vinyl option that I put on earlier, or you can go on the full length one that I'm about to throw on for you. All right, now we have the other options taken care of. We do have the last option, the biggest one. Now, this one is a bit easier to figure out as far as taking a glance at it. Of course, you can always, with the backing on it, put it on top of your hood just to see the placement of it. But this one is the driver's side. We do have a passenger side half to it, but I've already gone ahead and split these ones up. Now, with the front of it, it is obvious because it does have a couple different curves there, and that is going to go towards the front. The back is the same as that smaller piece and the one that's on the wrap film, as well as those example pieces. But this one is just a bit longer. I know I mentioned earlier to take your scissors and alcohol far away from when you have the PPF. Scissors, you don't want to cut more than what you need to. We do have these trimmed down to what you need. All you would have to do is just split them apart. As far as your alcohol, you do want to keep that far away as well, because if you accidentally spray alcohol instead of your soap and water mix, it will not slide the same, and the alcohol will begin to dry and will lock you into place. And if you try to pull up that adhesive, say you have a dark Bronco, it will leave a adhesion line which will look like a hazy white mark underneath that film. Even though this does already have somewhat of a haze to it, you do want to make sure that it has a consistent look all the way through it. If you were to use that alcohol and spray it underneath, it would dry up the adhesive underneath there, it would tack extremely quickly, and you would have a white spot underneath, which would not look ideal. We do want you guys to have a factory look to this. So this is the option that we have that we would say would be the best one to cut down entirely on, not entirely on that glare, but as much as possible. So usually, or as usual, we're going to generously spray the hood down with soap and water, as mentioned. Now, with that sitting, if you do have a second set of hands, great. If not, that is okay as well. Of course, if you do have those second set of hands that I mentioned, make sure they are clean as well. So if you have a helper, tell them to wash their hands and then to use a clean towel to dry their hands off, something that's not going to have fibers transferring over to your work. But for some, it might be a little bit easier to have someone pull the other end of this, even if it is just the backing and you, the owner of the vehicle, holds on to the film. But it is doable with one person. And it is okay that I have this folded over itself. It is the face of the film. touching the face of the film. The adhesive is what is exposed right now, and you definitely do not want to do any type of vinyl work or paint protection film work outside or where it might be windy. So if you are in a garage and you're trying to get a good temperature setting, right now we have our temperature set at about 72 degrees. You don't want to have a fan blowing while you are doing your install. One, it will dry your soap and water solution much faster than you'd want for it to. And two, it might blow something underneath your film. Say you just got a haircut earlier that day, you will definitely end up with some of those hairs underneath your film, and that is not the custom look that we are going for. So same as that partial piece, I'm going to put my hand firmly just really anywhere. I'm going to do about a 50-50 split on this, kind of similar to our hinge method. I am going to push some of this water up towards the windshield. As mentioned, you can start with the front if you want to. Totally up to you guys. I'm just going to push this water out. Now I have this locked into place. Of course, don't push around too much on that because it does still need to dry. And if you are wondering, drying time, I would say give it up to 8 hours. Usually after about 4 hours, you are able to see that water evaporate, but I would say up to about 8 hours. And you do want to have your vehicle sitting inside of that enclosed area for those hours while it is drying, just in case there is a corner or something that might try to lift up. It shouldn't, but if that is the case, you won't have something getting trapped underneath while it is drying. Also, after that, I would say first 15 to 30 minutes, especially after drying off the surface with a towel, you do want to go back over and kind of look at a horizon eyeball of your film to make sure that you don't have any bubbles underneath it. Of course, going back over it like this will definitely help with that, but sometimes we do get bubbles underneath there. If that is the case, you can lift this back up while it is still wet and get those bubbles to go away. Let me see if I can get rid of these spots that are on here. There we go. That actually may have been from me not following my own instructions and having a dirty hand. But if you do let those bubbles sit for too long, they can evaporate, but they do have a risk of leaving those somewhat of a white spot that I had mentioned before, that adhesion line, but nothing like if you were to accidentally use alcohol on this install. Again, we are wiping away from the edges, even though these edges are significantly more round than that smaller piece. Do want to practice the same methods. All right, so now we have the longer version of the anti-glare on the Bronco. I will go ahead and have the other side done, but we do want to have this side done for you guys, so that way you can get an idea of the options that we do have for that. We will have this up on the website, as well as a option to purchase a squeegee. Again, we have the black and yellow squeegee, 2 options for that. And for the hood bump, we do have 3 options for that: the wrap film, the partial one towards the back, and this full continuous one. So, of course, as usual, if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us or email upon your order. And we are here from Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. So please reach out to us if any questions at all. Thank you.